Hello everyone and welcome to the channel. I'm Emmanuel, I'm an Airbus pilot and I'm approaching my first Airbus Recurrent simulator training ever since I transitioned onto Airbus aircraft. Now I'm flying the A330. Today we're sitting here in the toeless A340 in X-Plane 12 and we are going to do a couple of exercises that I am doing just to revise a couple of procedures and just to bring myself into the mood for that simulator exercise that's coming up in the real world. So we are going to start with a very simple procedure, and that is the low visibility takeoff. That's something you do on about every recurrent simulator session so that you stay current in low visibility procedures, since you barely ever do them in the real world. Now on short haul that used to be maybe once or twice a year. On long haul it's probably going to be even less than that. So for sure, ever since I did my initial type rating, I didn't have any low visibility procedures in the real world yet, so definitely going to be something that we need to practice in the real sim in order to stay proficient in it. So let's switch right over into the cockpit and we can count the runway lights over here. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 lights, so we're looking at about 175 meters RVR over here. Alright, so then we've got everything done on the top. Park and brake off, ecam memo, takeoff no blue. Then I'd say takeoff. The wind is more or less calm, as it usually is in such situations. Manflex 69, SOS runway, auto thrust blue, and yeah, that was not intentional over here, just disregard that. Up 3.1, yeah, that's more or less where you are anyway. Okay, 100 knots. V1, rotate. Positive climb, gear up, nav, checked, autopilot 2, okay, and that is our low visibility takeoff sequence basically completed already. So thrust climb, auto thrust, flaps 1, speed check, flaps 1. And with that, we are out of this sequence. Okay. Fuel. Wing tank imbalance. Okay, let's see. Our flight path is more or less assured, but let's just clean the airplane up completely before we're going to continue over here. Okay, 220 knots at speed restriction at Mike November Echo is copied. Small things like this happen every now and then in the sim, just to distract you or to get your attention to see what kind of capacity you have. For example, right now, the reason I can imagine why an instructor would insert this, it's really a no-brainer there. It's just a slight tank imbalance on the outer fuel tanks. But look at that. We've got a speed restriction of 220 knots over Mike November Echo. If we retracted the flaps now, then we would probably fly a little bit faster than that. Now we're over Mike November Echo. Now we can go flap 0, speed checked, flap 0. Okay, set standard. Then we can also do vertical speed. Okay, and now that we are pretty much past all those tricks that might have been inserted over here, ecam actions. Okay, fuel, wing tank imbalance, outer tank transfer, manual. So that's fuel. Confirm. Confirmed. Okay, outer tank transfer, manual. Ecam actions complete. Okay, and that is just the first little exercise we can do over here. Okay then, let's fast forward a little bit to another exercise that we are going to do. So we've done a little reposition over here and we are ready to carry out the next exercise. Now this one is going to be a stall recovery. So As soon as we see any stall indications, we are going to apply the stall recovery memory items, which are nose down pitch control apply, bank wings level, and when out of the stall, thrust increase smoothly as needed, speed brakes checked retracted, and flight path recover smoothly. Now, when in clean configuration and below 20,000 feet, we are going to select flaps 1. Okay, so that's pretty much that part, so let's go ahead. Autopilot off, flight directors off, and then I'd say let's give it a try. We'll pitch the airplane up a little bit to make that exercise a bit more interesting. Now, obviously, Airbus is not really going to let us do this in normal law, but you'll get the idea of where we're going with this. Okay, let's just say we hear stall now. Okay, memory items, nose down pitch control apply, we're out of the stall. Okay, thrust is increased, speed brakes retracted, and flight path recovers smoothly. Well, first of all, we are going to increase our speed a little bit. Here we go, looking better. Okay, and smooth recovery, making sure that we don't pull any secondary stall. You can see how the amber band is coming up as we are pulling some G's while getting out of the stall, and here we are. Okay, perfect. So, now I just need a click spot to get out of toga lock here, but with that the exercise is basically completed. To get out of toga lock you just push the instinctive disconnect push buttons, and you can obviously just do that. Okay, so with that this exercise is complete. Our next exercise is going to be the 2D RNAV approach into runway 26 right at Munich Airport. Now, flying a 2D approach is a little bit more, let's call it interesting than a standard 3D approach, and there may be a little surprise waiting for us along the way. But for now, let's continue flying the 2D approach. We've got a QNH of 1033, and it is completely up to us as to when we are going to execute the approach. For your situational awareness, we've got the chart open over here. We can quickly set our minimums, which is going to be an RNAV minimum 2010. So let's go ahead and put that in, 2010. As our MDA is going to be a config full approach, and the QNH is 1033. Alright, very good. With that, all that lovely stuff is in, and we can fly the approach at our own discretion, expecting radar vectors from air traffic control. Now, what's important over here, first of all, is since it's a 2D approach, we have to make sure that we're going to fly it early stabilized, so we need to time when we are going to start our deceleration and activate the approach phase, and we need to make sure that we pass the final approach phase completely established, so latest 2 miles prior to Gudek we should be established on the center line. Alright, that is pretty much everything there is to it. Apart from that, let's go to the progress page. That's Munich 26 right in order to get our distance, and with that we should be pretty much prepared for the approach. So a little bit of info for the approach. Gudek at 5000, then it is going to be a 3-degree glide path angle all the way down to the minimum of 210 feet. Okay, so that's pretty much it. Okay then, let's turn right, heading off, make it 170. Slowly going to turn into the direction of the approach, then we can go for constraints over here, constraints over there, lights are on. Okay, that is looking quite good. Approach checklist, please. Barrel ref, QNH 1033. Seatbelts on, minimum. MDA Obaro 2010. Auto brake, low, engine start cell. We can put that one into norm, that was still from an earlier exercise. Okay, approach checklist complete. So like this, we're going to intercept the final at about 3 miles out or something the like. That looks very good to me. So we are fully prepared for this approach now. Alrighty, we can see the airplane itself wants to take about 5 nautical miles here for the deceleration. So if we start the deceleration when we're about 6 miles from Gudek, then I would say we are going to be in a very good position in order to conduct the approach. Now, I don't want to decelerate too early, but most certainly I don't want to decelerate too late. We just gotta find a good solution that works for us here, and normally taking that decel point plus maybe a mile or so is going to provide just that. Okay, activate approach phase. Speed is slowly coming down, and you will see that the Airbus 330, Airbus 340, they really take long to decelerate. Now this particular approach is on our OEB 30 list, so we cannot use the vertical deviation symbol to fly it, and that's the reason why we have to fly it as a 2D approach today. Obviously for training purposes as well. Okay, let's turn final. Nav. Flaps 1. Speed checked. Flaps 1. Might do a tiny overshoot over here, but we'll blame that on air traffic control. Flaps 2. Speed checked. Flaps 2. Okay, see that? Here the VDAV comes, and that is quite a bit too early for the approach that we're about to fly. Remember 5,000 at Gudek. So that's really coming very early over here. Okay, gear down. Flaps 3. Bird is active. Flaps full. Speed check. Flaps full. Okay. So 1 mile prior to Gudek, we're in final approach configuration and stabilized. That is just about perfect. So 1 mile to go. Pre-select FPA. Point 3 FPA. Go around altitude 5,000 sats. Okay, so now we can start with our distance altitude checks. At 10 miles, we're looking for 4,690. So today we got the runway up here, but if for whatever reason we didn't, then we could always use the distance to the runway threshold down here from the progress page. Okay, 4,690 we said. So 10 miles and we are maybe 50 feet low. Correcting. At 9 miles we're supposed to be in 4,370. Okay, 9 miles, 4,370, on glide. 8 miles, 4,050.
$2,000.
8 miles, on glide. Okay, 7 miles, 3,730. And in case anybody of you notices something, I'm ignoring it intentionally. For the purpose of the sim check. Okay, 7 miles on glide. 6 miles, 3,410. Six miles on glide. So at 5 miles, 3,100. And that is 3 miles on glide. 4 miles, 2,780.
1,000.
Checked. Ladies, by now you should notice something, but I'll keep it running for the purpose of demonstration. Okay, 4 miles, 2,780 has been on glide. 3 miles, 2,460.
500.
3 miles on glide.
400.
So you should notice something by now. Obviously in the sim I would have
300.
talked far earlier, but let's wait for it to happen.
200.
100 above.
100. 50.
Okay, go around. Terrain escape.
Minimum
10.
5.
Okay, that's full backstick, full forward, thrust.
Speed.
Okay, speed brake lever, check retracted.
Speed.
That is retracted.
Speed.
Okay, maintain wings level, and we're out of the danger zone. Okay then, we're out of the danger zone. Then let's go ahead and correct our situation. So, go around, flaps. Positive climb, gear up. Flaps 1. Okay, engage nav. Autopilot. Speed. Okay, so what just happened? Well, let's pause the sim for a moment over here, and we are going to slightly change our weather conditions. Or we don't actually even need to do that. So let's just quickly talk about what happened. Now, I mentioned a few times on the approach that you should notice something, and that something that you should notice was our radio altimeter not matching the barometric altimeter. This was a perfect example of a QNH blunder error. So the real QNH on this one would have been 1013 and not 1033. So let's go ahead and just reselect that. So 1013. You can see how that is a 600-foot difference there between the QNHs. So that means on the entire approach we were 600 feet lower than what we presumed to be, and as you could see, all my distance and altitude checks matched, and the brake was actually almost spot on as well. So what can we learn from this one? Well, two things. First of all, flying that 2D RNAV approach is very easy in the Airbus. Second of all, always verify that your altimeter setting is correct. And we should have noticed early on when we got the 2500 call from the radio altimeter that something should have been wrong. Now, Munich's elevation is 1500 feet roughly, and we got the 2500 call at roughly 8.3 miles out. Now, that's too early. we should get the 2500. Well, do the mathematics. When we're in... actually, we did get it a little bit earlier. We did get it at like 10 miles out. We should have gotten it at 8. So 2500 should be 4,000 feet barometric. And 4,000 feet barometric corresponds with 8 nautical miles. So if you get it much earlier, and you've got flat terrain on the approach, and if you know Munich, then you know there is flat terrain on the approach. If that happens, you know something has to be wrong. And that's how you can figure that something was wrong over there. Later on, we got the 1,000 foot call. We should get that 3 nautical miles out. We got it around about 5 nautical miles out. Again, 1 nautical mile equals approximately 300 feet on the profile. So by that you can determine that something must have been wrong. And ultimately, I kept this going because the airplane should have gotten us a GPWS warning. However, for some reason the GPWS didn't trigger. I really waited for that because I wanted to do the GPWS warning memory items. So it should have gotten us pull up or a terrain ahead pull up warning. So that is what we wanted to react upon. And in the very last moment then I decided that I'm just going to do the memory items myself. We did touch down on the cornfield for a short moment prior to the runway, about 2 miles prior to the runway. But we got airborne again and then got the airplane out of the danger zone. Now, the reason we touched down, as I mentioned, is I wanted to wait for the GPWS to come on, but only at the very last second decided I'm going to do it myself. That was a little bit of an influence that I did here for recording the video. Obviously, in the real world, we wouldn't wait that long for carrying out a go-around or the terrain escape maneuver if needed. Alright then, on to the next procedure. And here's another good exercise that we are surely going to do in the Recurrent Sim. This is the visual approach and the visual traffic pattern. Our initial position is going to be on the right-hand downwind for first officers, on left-hand downwind for captains, and we want to be about 2.3 nautical miles out from the runway centerline. So you can see I'm at 2.2 right now, so we want to open this one up a little bit. 3 seconds per 100 feet above field elevation, so we're looking at 45 seconds for the downwind, and we're going to start the timing as soon as we're abeam the landing runway threshold. On this one, accurate flying is important, so maintaining altitude, maintaining heading, and flying an accurate profile. Alright, we're abeam the field, let's go ahead and start the timing. And initial configuration is flaps 1. We are going to make this one a flaps 3 landing, just for the sake of practice. Okay, so out on the downwind, 10 seconds prior to turning base, we want to go for flaps 2. On base, we'll extend the landing gear, flaps 3 when turning onto the final, and that is how we're going to fly this. Okay, we're at 2.4 miles from the runway now, 30 seconds out. Primary reference, remember, it's a visual approach, so even though the instruments are helpful, they are not our primary reference. Okay, 37 seconds, flaps 2. Now comes the challenge, maintaining altitude while the flaps are coming out, as the Airbus does certainly have some ballooning. Okay, and turn final. Or turn base at first. That's what I meant. Plus the Tolus does seem to have a rather strong drag there. Okay, set runway track. Runway track set. I maintain 3000. Small base lag. Quick calculation, runway heading 270 minus 90 gives me a 170 on the downwind, but with just about 1.4 miles. Let's go gear down. Okay, and then we can slowly start our descent. Now, this one is a little bit easier in the real world because it's just easier to look out. Okay, flaps 3. So, in the real world you can see the runway and the PAPI a little bit better compared to the flight sim, where you need to do a little bit of guesswork there. But I think I can see the PAPI. I think we're on 2 whites, 2 reds, so make sure to initiate that descent. Go around altitude is going to be 3000 for another pattern if needed. Okay, and with that we are slowly but steadily coming up on the runway course. 160 knots ground speed, so we are looking for something at about 800 feet a minute.
1,000.
And obviously we can simply use the bird for that as well. Okay. So, stabilize on the final track. Ecam memo. Yeah, come on. Landing no blue. Landing checklist is complete. Alright, and here we go. The visual approach is such an important maneuver because it requires good manual handling skills of your airplane. And especially on long haul, where you do maybe 2 landings a month, if you're lucky, you don't necessarily get those get to practice those skills all the time. That's why it's even more important that we do it in the simulator regularly.
400.
Okay, it looks just about perfect to me. So let's make that a good landing, shall we?
Restart. 10.
5.
Okay, spoilers, reverse green, and decel. $70 knots. Alright, and here we are. So, made it all the way down, and with that, there is just one more exercise for us to complete on this one. I'm going to leave out the auto land because, well, everybody can do an auto land, right? It's just a couple FMA callouts that are different from the normal approach. Okay, cool. So, let's switch over to the last one now. The last of the exercises we want to have a look at today is the low visibility rejected takeoff. So obviously something is going to happen that is causing us to reject the takeoff, and then we gotta decide on the actions to be taken afterwards. We're looking at an RVR of approximately 125 meters over here, and with that we are ready for takeoff. We're at a rather heavy weight here, 330.5 tons, which for the A340 is quite a good weight already. Okay, so park and brake is released. And on this one, I'm going to share positions between the captain's seat and the first officer's seat, since there is different actions to be carried out. Okay then, take off. Man flag 62, SRS, runway, auto thrust blue. Thrust set. $100 knots, checked. Stop. Reverse green, decel. $70 knots. Attention crew and station, attention crew and station. Mayday, 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 Airbus 340, engine fire stopping on the runway. Okay, ECAM actions. Engine 2 fire. Thrust levers, idle, idle. Engine master 2, off, off. Engine fire push button 2, push. Come on. Okay, agent 1 and 2, discharge. So, engine master 1, off, off. Engine Master 3, off. Off. Engine Master 4, off. Engine Master 4, off. Okay. ATC VHF1 notify, we've done that. Cabin crew alert, we've done that. If evacuation is required... Okay, let's see. Fire is still on. Okay, evacuation is required. Evac command on. Passenger evacuation, passenger evacuation. Okay, we're done. Off we go. And that is it. Thank you very much for watching. With that, we've covered pretty much everything we needed to do over here. Now, obviously, in the real sim, there's going to be a lot more things that are going to come in the simulator check, but this is just a basic idea to have a look at a couple of the things that we can prepare for ahead of our recurrent simulator. Obviously, the last one, the question was, do we evacuate the airplane or do we not evacuate the airplane? If the fire had gone out, then we would still have to judge the temperatures of the brakes and if a fire could possibly arise from that. But seeing that our engine fire did not stop, even though the fire bottles were fired, it was clear that we had to evacuate the aircraft. Now, that's going to be it for today's video. I would like to thank you very much for watching. Hope that you've enjoyed it, and if you did, do let me know in the comments below. Press like if you really like the video, as it really does help out the channel, and if you're up for more, don't forget to subscribe, and I'm going to give you an update of how my simulator went in a couple days' time, when I've actually gone through it on the real one. The real sim, that is. In the meantime, thank you very much for watching, and if you really love my videos, I would appreciate a small donation through the Buy Me Coffee link in the video description below. Thank you very much, and see you all again on the next one.